Welcome to the Larry Rinker Golf Podcast, your place for tour proven conversations, world class instruction, and real results. I'm your host, Larry Rinker. My guest today played 10 years on the PGA Tour with 2 wins on the Korn Ferry Tour following an All American career at USC. He's one of the top short game coaches in the country, along with his father, Dave Stockton, who won 2 PGA championships, and his brother, Ron. Please welcome my friend Dave Stockton Jr. to the show. How you doing, Dave?
Larry, doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's great to see you. How you been?
I've been well. What's new and exciting?
Well, back in North Scottsdale now this time of year, and selling real estate. Little busier this year than last year, and doing some teaching as well, and trying to play as little golf as possible right now.
Yeah, well, hey, it's I like it when I could still get out there, but I'm busy too and teaching and we just overseeded our golf course, so we're cart path only for another till the PNC championship, which you have come and done some clinics at for the last 10 years. So we're looking forward to this year's event. We don't know everybody that's playing yet. I don't know if Tiger's making it this year. He just had surgery not that long ago. So, but we still have a great field. We've got already Bernhard Langer's coming back, and with his son, they're defending champions, and we've got a whole host of other Hall of Famers that will play. What would you say you've learned about teaching the last 16 years?
Oh man, I mean so much, but for me, what teaching to me, what I've learned is that I appreciate teaching so much more than anything I did ever did as a player. And the reason why is I felt like I was making a difference in other people's lives when it comes to a game that large part is very frustrating for people. They love it, but it's a love-hate thing. And just to be able to help someone take shots off their game relatively quickly and come to a whole new level they've never been to, and see the excitement and hear the excitement from them is whether they're a 20 handicapper going down to a 10 or 12, or a single digit going to scratch, or a young pro coming out and winning tournaments. It's there's no greater satisfaction than to see people you've helped achieve something that they only dreamed of before. So for me, it's doing that, and also in teaching people, realizing that everybody's different. And so if I don't ever teach the same thing to every single person, because everybody's built differently, everybody's wired differently mentally. It's my job as a teacher to figure out what makes this person tick, why, what are they really good at, what do they need to improve, and then help them with those areas they need to improve.
There's a lot of talk today, and there's teachers out there that are using launch monitors to measure putting, short game. We have Sam Putt Labs, Quintech launch monitors. Are you using any of that equipment, and what are your feelings of using it?
I don't use any of that. What I will be using here shortly is a new ball that, in fact, my dad, my brother, and I are all going to be at the PGA show this year in January for Encore Golf. This new golf ball we have coming out with them is completely revolutionary, and it actually is phenomenal for teaching. It will give you the feedback instantly off the app with regards to where you're striking the ball in putting. If you're hitting it at the right angle, so we get someone with a putter with the right loft in their hands. If they're hooking putts or cutting the putts, how they're coming in through the stroke. We've no one's ever had that before, and we've got this ball coming out that is really going to help people get the right putter loft and lie, get the right putter for their stroke, so they can roll it optimally. Tough with that word, I guess. And get them making more putts. That's the bottom line. So we're excited about it. Looking forward to being at the PGA show in January with my dad and my brother.
Well, something to me that I think gets overused is with this equipment and data.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of teachers want their students to be tour average.
Hmm.
And you said everybody's different.
Right.
My friends that have used Sam Putt Labs say, Larry, everybody's stroke is different, just like my thumbprint.
Yep.
Everybody's different. So if you're trying to teach everybody to be the average, I mean that's from a, you've got this database. Well, what if they're just in the database somewhere? Because there's lots of ways to do it. Tiger Woods doesn't putt the way your dad putted.
Hmm.
Jack Nicklaus putts differently.
Yep.
Morris Satowski, a great putter, putted differently. Lauren Roberts has a different stroke than you and I. We don't putt the same, but yet all those names I listed have been successful at putting. And that's where I get into these averages, these tour averages, and we know what they are. But why are people trying to make everybody tour average?
I think it's the hot thing to do. And they think, oh, I can give them all this, but guess what they're not doing? They're not getting any better.
Right, right,
That's the thing. I've got all this equipment and I'm going to look like, oh, I'm going to really help you. All you're doing, for the most part, for the average player, you're just confusing them. You're making it, unless someone's super analytical and mechanical and
right,
they want to have everything and they have to have it just so. First off, they're not going to be good putters anyway because they're perfectionists. That doesn't work in putting. You and I know that.
right.
Um, and so it's far more. I mean, what we work on so much with people, I've always prided myself on working on the mental side because
Sure.
I'm a firm believer that if you can get someone thinking the right way, that unlocks their potential, they're going to have more confidence and make more putts.
Right.
And you know, putting is about feel and visualization.
Yeah.
And it's I go back to a caddy for my dad as a kid growing up for 7 summers. Started when I was 12, and it would happen every week because he always kept the putter super low, and he'd get the putter stuck going back. But he wouldn't stop. He'd just go right on through and make the putt 9 times out of 10. And as a kid, I'd say, "Hey, Dad, you got the putter stuck going back." He goes, he'd say, "Yeah, just means I'm keeping it low. That's what I do. I want to keep it low." And as a kid, I'm like, oh, okay, because I can just picture like a Bryson DeChambeau or somebody else. They're taking the putter back and it gets stuck. They're going to back off. They're going to check the barometric pressure. They're going to do all this different stuff. Check the algorithms, whatever they're going to do, and then get back into their thing. And we'd already be on the next hole playing. You know.
Well, one of the biggest myths to me about putting is that you have to aim perfectly.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
know that your dad teaches putting. He likes a left aim, kind of like Jack Nicklaus,
Yep.
where he says, hey, aim a straight putt left center. And if you hit it there, you make it. And if you push it a little bit, you make it in the center. And if you push it a little more, you make it right center.
Exactly.
So, and Nicholas, I've seen an interview this year where he talked about, hey, I aimed at the left edge and
Hmm.
I just knew I had 4.5 inches to play with. And he said, that's the way I hit my driver. I aimed down the left side of the hole. I had 35 yards to play with in the fairway. So, and you talk about your lead hand going at the hole. And so the ball, as a right hander, you can never miss left if you're doing that. And
Right.
that's the way your dad taught you to putt. And, and you became a great putter like your father. But yet, your friend Tiger Woods putts totally different, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I have a funny story with Tiger. We were at Harding Park for I think it was President's Cup, like 2010, somewhere in there, 2010,
Yeah.
2011. And we had worked with Phil. We'd started working with Phil, and the week after we worked with him, he won Eastlake by a couple shots and touted us. And so we were at Eastlake with him, and we're spent some time with him on the putting green. Tiger comes up, and he's putting with just his right hand. He's putting just right-handed. And I said, "Hey, Tiger," and he goes, "Junior, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Good." He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're here working with Phil." And he says, "Oh, okay." He said, "Yeah, you teach left hand, huh? The left hand's the boss." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I could never do that." And he's making one after the other with his right hand from 10 feet. And I said, well, it's your direction hand. We just believe the back of the left hand finishes down your target line. That's basically the face of the putter. Wherever the back of your left hand's finishing, that's where the face of the putter's aiming. So if you're going down your line, you're going to make putts. He starts putting with just the left hand. He made the same number putting left-handed. It didn't matter. I think, one thing Tiger has always been really good at is willing balls into the hole.
Yes.
I mean, no, you don't have to look any further than when he won the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines and that putt that lipped in on 18.
Yeah.
You watch that ball bouncing and it's look, there's no way it's going in and it lips in. He willed it into the hole. I mean,
Yes.
and I've had guys, 1 year at the PNC, I had helped Raymond Floyd with his putting. He was there to play, and he asked me if I'd spend some time with him on the putting green. I said, "What do you need help on the green for, Raymond? You're one of the best putters all time." And he was really nice. He said, "Yeah, I know. I've always been a great putter." He says, "I just don't play a lot of golf anymore, and I've lost the confidence on the greens." And I said, "Well, as good as you are, it'll take about 2 minutes to fix whatever's wrong. I'll meet you tomorrow after you play your pro-am." He says, "Perfect." And we got on the green, and it was as simple as he got away from enjoying the look to the hole as he set up. Remember how he'd always have that stare looking out at the hole
Oh, yeah.
and that glare, that Raymond Floyd glare. He didn't have that, and he was looking down at the ball, and he'd take short looks out, and he'd shuffle, and he'd look out, and he'd come back, and he'd roll it, and he missed the first one. And I said, "How'd that feel?" He says, "Terrible, terrible." I says, "I can't get comfortable over the ball." And I said, "Okay, well, hey," I said, let me have you do something. I want you to put your putter behind the ball, and let your eyes set your feet, looking out at the hole, and just visualize that ball going in. Don't even come back to the ball. No one's going to steal the ball." And he puts the putter down. And he gets that stare. He gets that glare going, and he's looking out at the hole, and he's setting up. And when his eyes came back, the putter poured it right in the hole from about 15, 18 feet, went right in the middle. And I said, "How'd that feel?" He says, "I just felt totally relaxed and comfortable." I said, "Yeah, you can be relaxed and comfortable looking out there and visualizing what you see, a positive image of where that ball's going in the hole." I go, "You're just spending too much time looking down at the ball. And then if you're looking down at the ball, your mind is busier. Your mind's always busier looking down here. But if you're looking out, visualizing a positive image of what you see this ball doing, your homework's done out there. As your eyes come back, the putter goes. It keeps you in your subconscious mind."
Right.
And that week, I remember he ended up putting, just staying looking out at the hole. He didn't even come back to the ball. And they showed him on TV. He made like a 40-footer on one hole looking out at the hole. And I was just smiling like, this is so great to see someone as great as Raymond Floyd and the Hall of Famer who just lost it a little bit. And it was just a little tweak. He got away from being an artist on the greens and having feel. And, those things are just so cool to see when it clicks.
Well, I love the way you got him comfortable too. Like he said, he didn't feel comfortable over the ball. But if you had him set the putter and then look at the hole and then move his feet in while he was looking at the hole,
Yeah.
all of a sudden he found it subconsciously
Hmm.
where he needed to set up. And
Right.
I also enjoy the look. I use that all the time in putting lessons.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had someone recently, I think it was a kid named Jimmy Jones that's going to second stage in the first week of December. Came in yesterday and his putting, and I just said, "You're just not quite enjoying the look at the hole long enough.
Hmm.
Just look there a little longer." And that was the putting lesson.
Yeah. It doesn't take your eyes are your field. And
Yes,
if you're not using them, and your eyes, if you're looking out at the hole setting up, your eyes aren't going to set you up over it uncomfortable.
right,
But if you're someone who sets up over the ball and looks out and you're uncomfortable, that's ironically the first time you're using your field is when
right.
you're letting your eyes set, you're looking out there and your eyes are going, "Oh man, I'm not lined up right. I'm closed or I'm open or whatever it may be." But, my dad always said the ball doesn't matter. What matters is where you're sending it. So your
Yeah,
focus ought
well,
to be out there. Yeah, in all of
and
it.
the first time I ever heard it, it was Tiger. I don't know if he stole it from somebody, but I love Tiger's putt to the picture.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Cut to the picture of the ball and see where you see it going in the hole. Is it straight in? Is it on the right side? Is it going in over there around 4 o'clock? Is it going in, breaking left to right about 8 o'clock? Where do you visualize where you see this ball going in the hole? But putting, yeah, it's so interesting to me. And my first putting lesson with people, I want to try and help them find their natural intuitive stroke.
Right.
When I roll balls at them and they hit a moving ball, it shows up.
Right.
It also shows up, like Raymond found out, when you putt looking at the hole.
Hmm. Yep.
So all of a sudden, he couldn't find his way back, and you had him get his setup looking at the hole and enjoying looking at the hole, and all of a sudden, he was Hall of Famer Raymond Floyd putting on the greens with that stare again.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was cool to see. And
Yeah.
it just clicks. Yeah.
But it just boggles my mind that guys come up with all this data and okay, you're opening and closing the face. Oh, you're opening it and closing it more than tour average. Well, we know Tiger opened and closed it more than tour average.
Right.
Or somebody saying, oh, we see all these putters coming out that don't have any torque in them too.
Right.
There's something about people think that if you open and close the putter face less, you'll control direction better. Well, that's logical, but we're human beings. We have
Right.
feel and we
Yep.
can return the putter face. A tennis player can be all over the place and put the racket right where they want to hit the ball where they want in the court, off balance.
Yep.
And putting, we're standing there, the ball's not even moving. So it's pretty easy for us to feel where we need the face to get the ball in the hole if we really trust our instincts.
Yeah. 100%.
So, and I love the visualization part too. I mean, that is just such a big part, So to me, so much of what you do in putting and your dad and your brother, and I think good putting coaches is they just get people to really work on visualizing making putts. And can you stand up and commit to making the putt? And how
Right.
well can you do that for 18 holes?
Yeah.
Can you trust
Yep.
yourself? And a great story about Jimmy Jones. He's playing and he birdies 16, and 17 was a par five and he birdies that. And now he's got a 7 footer on his 72nd hole of first stage. He's got to make it to make it. And
Wow.
he said, I know I'm making this putt, and he knocked it in. So he makes it on the number.
Wow. Birdie in the last three. That's amazing.
Birdie in the last three.
That's awesome.
So doesn't always happen that way.
Right. Right.
But it's amazing, and in your career how something like that changes what happens in the future.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
that changes a lot. And so, it's kind of fun right now. I have 3 guys going to second stage that I've been working with, and one I just had one lesson with, so I can't really take a whole lot of credit. But it's kind of fun, and they're
Yep.
going to be up at the conservatory at Tom Watson course at Hammock Beach in Florida the week after Thanksgiving. So kind of fun for old Larry to
That's
have
great.
have some irons in the fire and got some guys I can feel nervous for.
That's awesome. No, that's great. It's a good feeling.
I was telling one of the guys, Louis Gagne, I was telling about, I remember playing tour school when we played Sawgrass 2 rounds in the TPC Stadium course, 4 rounds. I remember we teed off a number 10 and we were all so nervous. And we like make sloppy bogeys on that 10th hole. And the caddies were like, would you guys quit choking? I mean, come on.
Oh,
But I mean, you've been through though. You made 4 of them. I mean, come on. I mean, it's
yeah. I figured it out. I learned. I yeah. I always tell my students, I'm like, just if you improve each year, work. Just if you continue to climb and improve each year, you're going to get to where you want to be.
right,
And it's putting in the work and doing the things. And I naively thought when I turned pro at 22, um, and this is right after this, I just had been, right before the Ryder Cup in 91. So I turned pro in the fall of 90, went right to Q school, thought, oh, I'll get my card. And I missed at first stage at Fort Ord up in Northern California. I'm like, all right, now what do I do? I can't, miss by a million. And I went and played the mini tours and I grinded. And I went back to Q school and I went to first stage in Bakersfield, California, got through, went to second stage at Fort Ord and missed by two, didn't get the finals. So I went to South Africa, played in South Africa, and then came back, played the mini tours, did that, got through first stage at Bakersfield, second stage in Mesa, Arizona, and finals were at the Woodlands in Houston. And I went in with the wrong mindset. I went in with the mindset of, what did it take here last time? Because back then, as you know, Q school would go Florida, Texas, California. Florida,
Right.
every 3 years you'd be back, right? So I was like, well, what did it take here, 3 years ago? And I was looking at outcome. I was thinking outcome. I wasn't thinking handle my own thing and don't worry about anybody else. Play one shot at a time, one day at a time. And I only beat like 10 guys. So I was conditional on the Nike tour back then, Corn Ferry now. And, was fortunate enough to win twice in 1 month and got exempt to finals. And finals were at PGA West in my backyard. But I went with a different mindset. I went with the mindset of I was going to win and I wasn't going to look at any scoreboard and I was just going to do my business and get out of there. And I won. And
Wow.
it was and I got through Q school every time I went back after, of course, didn't have the career on tour that I wanted. So I had to go back 3 more times after that. And, but I was able to get through because I knew mentally how I had to be. And
Right.
luckily, and that didn't make it for sure, but luckily those 6 rounds I happened to be playing good enough and I didn't get in my way mentally.
Right.
So that's the whole thing is you don't know if you're going to be playing well that week. And so all you can control is your mental approach. That's the one thing you can control, your mental approach. You can't always control how you're going to hit the ball, but if you're mentally sound and thinking the right way, your bad rounds are going to be better than what they could have been.
Right.
And your good rounds are going to be better than what even better. So, it's just something, you learn as you go. And it took me 3 years to get out there, but I finally got out. And, everybody's different, but it's so tough out there now than the quality of play. I mean, and you knew that was going to happen when Tiger came out, but the amount of money that's being played for out there now is just absolutely mind blowing. And
Yes.
so you've got people coming from all over the world, and they're ready to play. That's the difference between I think now and when you turn pro and when I turn pro is these kids are ready. Even in their college, they're already top tenning and competing for wins on the PGA Tour. You didn't see that before. And
Well, and so many are getting experience playing the Corn Ferry Tour now.
yeah,
I mean, they're traveling to different cities. They have a caddy. They have a cut.
right.
They're playing against some really good players. I always felt like you learned a lot playing with better players. And hey, we've that tour's been going since 1990. It's
Yeah,
35 years old, and a lot of guys that have had successful tour careers started there, but had to start there, and some guys resurrected their careers down there and came back.
right.
But you're right, they come so much more prepared, and then you add the foreign players that are coming over too. So it's gotten so much more difficult to make it now. Just the level of play. I think it was 9 under that it took to get past first stage where Louis Gagne played. So
Wow.
hey, it's tough. So we were talking about putting, and we talked a lot really about what the Stockton signature approach is,
Mhm.
which is left hand grip and that left hand going toward the hole.
Yeah, yeah. If you're a right-handed player, your left hand's your direction hand. So, I mean, we say it's the same as if you're hitting a low chip. The low chip is driven by the left hand. It's not driven by the right. The high shot around the greens, the flop shot, that's right hand, right palm to the
Right.
sky. But
Right.
the low chip and the putt is left hand driven, where you don't release. We're not releasing the club. I know people, commentators, everybody say, "Oh, I release the putter." It's like we're not releasing the putter. We're holding the angle through, and it's it's a it's the same as the low chip. And my dad would make me practice as a kid, just putting left-handed, hitting low chips just left-handed, where you build up the strength in the left hand. Because I'm right-handed, but I can hit low chips and putts just left-handed from I can be 100 feet away, and I'm not going to break down with the left hand because I've done it enough years, enough repetitions where my left is just as strong as my right.
Yeah.
But in that way, the other thing is like grip pressure wise, we're firmer in the left hand than we are in the right. The right hand's the feel. So the lighter you hold it in the right hand, the more feel you have. And the analogy we use is throwing a dart. Like if you had the dart in your right hand, you're not holding it tight, you're holding it really light, and there's feel in that. Or playing pool, when you're gripping the pool cue at the bottom,
Right.
at the back, you're holding it lightly, you're not holding it tight. So
Right.
grip pressure is something you don't hear a lot of people talk about. I mean,
No.
I've had people say, "Oh, well, what's your?" Well, I had this with Patrick Reed at Bethpage Black, ironically, several years ago when he was on tour and the FedEx Cup was there, and it was my first time working with him. And I said, "Well, what's your miss?" And he said, "My miss is I leave it short, or I'll miss it on the low side, and it really bleep bleeps me off." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Roll a few." And he's rolling a few. And I could see the putter stopping as he goes through. It's not continuing, he's stopping. And I said, "You worked with my dad at Firestone." It was the first time he worked with my dad about 3 weeks earlier. And I said, "Did he have you do the left hand drill?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Okay. Have you done any of that?" He says, "Oh, yeah, I've done some of it." I said, "Well, show me some just left handed." So he did the left handed stroke, and the putter didn't stop. It went through further. There was no
Right.
restriction. So I knew exactly what the problem was. And I said, "Okay, get set up over this with both hands. And I'm going to ask you a question when you're all ready." He said, "Okay." And he gets over it. I said, "What's your grip pressure between both hands?" And he looks at me like it's the dumbest question he's ever heard a teacher say to him. And he said, 50-50. And I said, "Perfect. Give me 80 in the left and 20 in the right." And he gets in there, 80 in the left, 20 in the right. Putter's not stopping, it's going through. Ball's not short, it's going in the hole. His speed's good because the right hand doesn't want to go through. It'll stop or it'll flip it up. But if it's on lightly, now the left hand has the control because it's on firmer. Well, he starts rolling and the speed's really good. He won that week by one or two. I forget it. I think he won by two. But it was just a little tweak there. That was something for him. It was his grip pressure.
Right.
And
Wow.
he was honest with me. He never thought of it, obviously. 50-50. Duh. That's what I'm gonna that's how I do
Right.
it. Like, no, it shouldn't be 50-50. I go,
Yeah.
"Do you have, would you have more feel or less feel holding it lighter in the right hand?" "More feel." "Yeah."
Right.
So it just kind of was like a light bulb went on in his head, and he goes and wins the tournament. But uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I would say the right hand is releasing against the left hand and left arm, and then the left arm is your fulcrum, and it's not letting the shaft or the club pass it. That's
right.
kind of the way. And so the right hand, there is some right hand and wrist in the putting. That's if you tossed a ball, you would do that.
Hmm.
So, but it's the left hand that's firm that's keeping the putter from closing
Right.
for a right-handed golfer, and that's what that's the signature Stockton approach. Is that's how you eliminate the left side. You can stop missing putts on the left, and then hitting putts left hand only. Well, that arm is going to keep moving, isn't it? It's not
Yeah.
going to stop.
Just goes right through.
It
Yeah.
goes right through. So positive thinking all starts with visualization. How do you train that?
Well, I mean, the thing with putting is people get, and this is where teachers nowadays with putting and all the stuff you talked about earlier with all the different apparatuses and computers and everything they're doing, and it's all on the 10% in my book. That putting's 90% mental. And what all these teachers are working on is the 10% as it pertains to the stroke.
Right.
And okay, great. You can have a great stroke, but if you're 90%, your mental side is a mess, you're not going to be consistent making putts.
No.
So it's far more important to work on the mental side. And okay, now what's that mean? Work on the mental side. And when we work with someone the first time, we'll have, you've heard me say this, we'll have you sign your signature. You sign your name, Larry Rinker. Boom. Okay, perfect. Underneath that, I want you to sign it again, but I want you to take 10 seconds. Go really slow and make it look the same as the first one. You can't do it. And people laugh. Some people can't even finish their name. They're like, and the difference couldn't be greater because the first one is in your subconscious and there's a rhythm to it, which is where we want you putting. We want you in a rhythm and in your subconscious, and the second one is you trying because we're taught at a young age from our parents to try our hardest. Really, just as long as you try, we're proud of you. That's great. All you're going to do is be frustrated because how many times do you miss a shot? I don't care what your level is. You hit a bad shot or miss a putt, you scrape the ball back, and the next one goes 9 times out of 10, it goes where you wanted that first one to go. And you say the old adage, why didn't I do that the first time? Second guy's better always. No, it's just because the second one, you let it go. The first one, you tried. And
Yeah.
so I always tell people visualize, trust, let it go. Visualize where you see that ball going in. If you visualize where you see it going in, you can trust that. That's a positive image. The last thing is letting it go.
Right.
And how I get my students to excel at this and improve quickly when it comes to putting is to practice this way. One ball or two balls, and walking in each time. Go through the routine that you're going to have because I'll have kids or older adults say, well, what should I do routine wise? Whatever you want to do. You're wired the way you are. If you want to, take two looks at the hole, great. If you want to take one long one after you've put the putter down behind the ball, fine. Whatever you're more comfortable doing, but then practice that way.
Right.
Because if you go, I've never been, even when playing on tour, I wouldn't spend more than 20 minutes on a putting green. And because I'd learned that from my dad, and I'd come out and putt for 20 minutes. I'd do 5 minutes with just my left hand, going through my routine. And then the next 15 minutes or so, putting all different lengths. And if I made one or two from the same spot, I'd move to a different putt. And then I get out of there because I did my routine. And if I'm practicing my routine on the putting green, this too. If you're practicing your routine, when you get out on the golf course and under the gun, you're much less likely to have that routine break down.
Right.
And people say, well, why my routine breaks down? I'm like, okay, well, how do you practice? What do
Right.
you do? And they come out and they don't go through their routine. They're coming out, they're just putting. Well, I just come out and putt and get a feel for the speed. I said, okay. Um, so when you go do that, you get out on the first hole. Oh, this matters now. Now we get down and now we're thinking, which is that second signature. Now we're thinking and trying to get everything just so. It's not about being perfect. And my dad proved that with getting the putter stuck going back for crying out loud. And he just keeps going right on through. And
Right.
putting's a mindset. He walks into every putt expecting it to go in. And I just did I got that same mentality at a young age from him because I'm like, oh, seems to be working pretty good for the old man, and I try to instill that in the people I do work with on it.
How do you handle students that are so data driven, analytical? Well, I'm averaging 33 putts per round and they've got all their stats and everything and they want the data. They want to, how long their backswing takes to how long their forward swing takes or things that blast motion can measure or they've been measured by Sam Putt Labs or whatever. How do
And
you handle those students and try and get them off of the over analytical side of
analytical.
study?
Well, I just tell them I don't sugarcoat it and I'm honest because that's what they're coming to me for. And If they don't like what they hear, they can go somewhere else. But
Right.
I know what I teach is right.
Yeah.
And so I say, look, the better putters, the more consistent putters are field putters.
Right.
If there's a mechanical putter, will they have good weeks? Of course, you have a good week here or there. But it's about being consistent and being a better putter more consistently. The only way you're going to get there is if you get away from all this trying to be perfect and get everything just so, because this is not a game of perfect. Putting is definitely not a game of perfect. And so if you release that and do you, I do that with the signature. I say, do you think about your signature? Do
Right.
you think about that when you sign it? No. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but
when you,
they say to you something like, "Well, I haven't learned the skill yet. I haven't learned how to sign my name yet. So I've got to be, thinking more. I've got to be more left brain with this. I can't turn it over to my feel side, my right brain, because I mechanically I'm not where I need to be."
well, what I'll do with people like that are super analytical and mechanical is I'll have them putt just looking out at the hole.
Yeah.
And I did that actually with Justin Rose. This was back in 2010 or 2011 at Colonial. He hadn't won on tour yet. And we were at Colonial, and I heard that he was asking questions about, I was there working with a few guys, and I said, hey, and I'd played with him. My last year on tour was like his first year, like '03 or whatever it was. And um, I said, I heard you were asking about what we teach. I'd be glad to talk with you or meet with you. And he says, yeah, that'd be great. So we went down to the green. I gave him a 15-footer with about a foot of break. And I said, okay, I want to see your routine. This putt's to win this week. And read it, put the ball down the way you want. I'm just going to sit back and watch you. You go through your routine. He went through his whole routine. He had the line on the ball too. Of course he did. And and he went through his whole routine, took a few practice strokes, and he finally putted it. When he putted it, he missed it. And I said, okay. I said, what's more important, the right line or the right speed? And without missing a beat, he didn't even think about it. He goes, the right speed. I go, perfect, exactly. Why do you have a line on your ball then? And he starts laughing. I said, look, Justin, I know why you have a line on your ball. You're a perfectionist. You're mechanical. It's why you have a great golf swing and you're very consistent. It repeats. Putting is not about being perfect. If it was, there'd be one line that's right. The ball can go in the hole on. Rest of the lines are all wrong. We know that's not the case because speed dictates line. So he's listening to me. He's like, and when I have someone that's super mechanical, which he is, I don't give them a whole lot. I want to keep it simple because I'm actually, to me, what's simple, and to you, this would be simple. Someone like that, I don't want to blow the lid off their head. They got to play a tournament that week, right?
Right.
And so I said, okay. I said, how often are you, when you set up over the ball and you get all set up and you look out at the hole, how often are you uncomfortable over your ball, over the putt? And he goes, oh, 75% of the time. 75% of the time. The only one I had more, but Woody Austin told me he was uncomfortable 100% of the time, but I think you can understand that.
Yes.
So, but he said 75%. I said, okay, perfect. I said, I can see that. Um, the reason why, and I explained to him, you're setting your feet lining up at the ball with the line. And then when you look out, you're feeling your eyes are going, oh man, I'm not lined up where I need to be. This is, so you're thinking over the ball and you're already toast. And I had him do the signature, which kind of shocked him and surprised him. And I said, okay, this putt, I'm going to have some fun with you. I said, I want you to put the putter down, feet together, put the putter down behind the ball, and I want you to look out at that hole, and I want you to stay looking out, set your feet. I don't even want you coming back to the ball. I just want you to visualize that ball going in the hole about 4 o'clock, because that's about where the center of the hole is on this putt. And when you're ready, just go ahead and feel the stroke. Don't come back to the ball. And he's over it, and he's looking out. He poured it right in the hole at 4 o'clock, and he looked at me like it was some kind of witchcraft. And I said, that was awesome. I said, I know I kind of blew your mind right there, but what I'm proving to you is that your eyes are lining the putter face up where it needs to be to make that putt. I said, you just putted that with complete feel. I said, now all I want you to do, I'm not going to give you anything else. I don't care if you put the line on your ball. But I want you to let your eyes set your feet. I want you to enjoy the look to the hole. And when your eyes come back, go ahead and pull the trigger. I said, just do that for me. And I did give him I did give him one other thing. His tendency is to come up with the left shoulder. If the shoulder's coming up, the putter's coming up. We want to keep the
Right.
putter low to the ground. So I had him put his right hand on his left shoulder and putt just left-handed, go through the routine, but just left-handed. Played pretty good that week at Colonial. And he said, yeah, he said it was better. I made more putts. This was good. He says, I'm looking forward to next week. He won Memorial the next week for his first win. And, it was really cool to see. And I thought, oh man, I got a student for a long time now. And we talked after the tournament and he said, I really appreciate everything you said. And I watched him on TV and it was awesome. And he said, I appreciate everything you told me. And I took a lot of what you said and mixed it with what I do. I go, that's what you're supposed to do. I said, you
Right.
made it your own, and I'm proud of you. Congrats on the win. Sky's the limit for you. He says, yeah. He says, I don't know if I'm gonna work with you going forward. And I laughed on the phone. I laughed, and he goes, why are you laughing? I said, well, it's not personal. It's business. I said, I know. I taught you feel. You've never been taught feel in your life. You've always been about mechanics and having everything just so. I said, just try to keep feeling your putting. I said, I'm going to be around every few weeks. I'll be out on tour. And if you want to work, great. If not, no worries. And he went to Hartford, my favorite tournament back in the day. And he had the lead after Thursday, had the lead after Friday, Saturday had the lead going into Sunday. And I was watching on Sunday. I didn't get to see any of the other previous rounds. And I'm watching him and he's reverted back to old habits. And he's got a one shot lead at the turn. And I turned to a buddy. I said, he's not going to win this week. I said, how do you know that? I said, he's not comfortable over the ball. Because you can see that on the TV. I said, yeah, because I worked
Yeah.
with him. I know where I can see he's thinking. You don't want to be thinking over putts. You want to just be in your rhythm and going. And he loses. And I sent him a text. I said, hey, I'm not sure if you want to hear from me or not, but I'm sorry about how today went. You almost had it. I did notice a couple things that you're doing differently from when we worked. If you want to know what they are, give me a call. And he called me like a half hour later. I was kind of surprised. What'd you see? I said, you weren't comfortable over the ball, were you? And he said, I wasn't comfortable all weekend. I said, do you know why? And he said, no. I said, you got away from enjoying the look to the hole. You were too hurried to get back to the ball. And then you were taking extra looks. So you were out of your normal routine. You weren't enjoying the look. He goes, okay, yeah. That makes sense. I said, you know why you missed all your putts on low, especially your left to righters? You missed them low. And he goes, no. I said, remember that left hand drill I talked about with your right hand on your left shoulder? I said, your left shoulder's coming straight up on those left to righters. You're coming up and out of the putts. You're not going to keep them on line. You're going to miss them low 9 times out of 10. And he goes, yeah. Okay. I said, those two things, enjoy the look and practice that left hand drill, but keep that putter low going through. He wanted Aronimec the next week, the AT&T in Philly. And I never worked with him again after that. That was it. But I feel like I had something to do with his first two wins, so that was fun. But it's funny with the mechanical players. It's tough for them to break away from it.
It's real hard, and it's so addictive,
Yeah.
that they don't want it. They want to have something. It's hard to let go. And if you give them one thing, then maybe they can trust it and do it. But I say to my students all the time with the line on the ball, I ask them the question, I go, what's the purpose of the line on your ball? And a lot of times they'll answer, well, that's so I'm lined up correctly. And I go, that's not the purpose of the line.
Right.
They go, well, what is the purpose? I go, the purpose is that you trust you're lined up correctly. And so if you're using a line and you get up over it and you don't trust you're lined up correctly, how's it working for you?
Yep. Not good.
Yeah.
It's funny. When we worked with Rory those 4 years, and he won the four majors, working with us, and he had the line on the ball, but he let it was a reference point only. He would set his feet looking out at the target and visualizing where it was going in. It wasn't what he set his feet to. And I don't mind the line when it comes to that. Some people have a hard time getting set up as long as you're not making that your crutch. And I'm lining up to that. And then I look out and wonder why I'm not comfortable, you know.
Well, it's funny. I've never used a line on a ball. I don't have lines on my putter. And I take one practice stroke beside the ball. And when I get in there, I look at the hole and I might adjust my setup a little bit looking at the hole to where I'm comfortable. And
Right.
I take my practice stroke and then I just shuffle my feet in and take and enjoy the look and look at the hole and come back and go.
Yep.
But I feel comfortable. I don't feel like I'm not aimed correctly or anything. But I
Right.
have to say, I set my feet and get set up before I even take my practice stroke.
Mm.
That's what I do.
Hmm. Yeah, and
And
you repeat it, and
and I repeat
that's
it.
your routine, and you repeat it
That's my
every single
routine.
time. Yep.
And I tell people all the time, my routine doesn't really start until I take that putter back. So when I have time to get comfortable. Morris
Mhm.
Satowski, one of the greatest putters of the
Yep.
PGA Tour, number one putter the first 10 years they kept stats. He said, Larry, you got to be comfortable over the ball.
Yeah.
So, so I get in there and I get comfortable and then I take that practice stroke and that's when my routine starts.
Yep.
And I tell people that all the time. Hey, you have time to get comfortable.
You do.
So,
Yeah.
I just think putting is so great. And I bet you say this to your students like I do. You go, putting is fun.
It
You
can
need to
be.
have fun
Yeah.
putting.
Yeah. It can be. People, I always laugh like, who was it? My dad was working with a girl, somebody on the LPGA tour, and it was funny. She was it Helen Alfredson? It was somebody who is just a real kick, and I think
Right.
it might have been Helen. And like she got the putter in her hand. She's awesome, and as soon as you put the putter in her hand, she just get this scowl and get like miserable, And my dad said, "Okay, we got to change you get the putter in your hand, you turn into a nightmare." She's laughing, and he said, "Think of the Solheim Cup, something like that, something positive. What do you have?" And she had a Solheim Cup coin, some kind of a coin that she used. He said, "Okay, I want you to carry that with you up to the green, something different, and put the putter there too. But I want you to have the mindset of Solheim Cup and, you know, smile, And so, and it worked. It worked. It was just changing because you don't realize, people don't even realize, they think about, oh, now I got to putt, you know, it's like the easiest part of the game if you allow it to be. You don't have to get it airborne. You're not going to lose your ball. You know what club you're using every time. There's several reasons why it's the easiest part of the game if you allow it to be. It's a mental block for people that is breakable if they work on the right things.
Well, I had the yips twice. I had them in college. I got them the second tournament I turned pro. Great timing there.
Oh, jeez.
I got out of it the second time by putting looking at the hole.
Hmm,
And then the first time I had to change what success was.
hmm,
So whenever you flinch, I describe the yips as a visual physical flinch that
hmm.
happens right before at impact.
Right.
And so I just said, okay, if I can make a smooth stroke and the ball rolls nicely, I'm good. I
Yep.
can accept whatever happens. And I remember I was playing the state amateur at Bay Hill. I had about a 35 footer on 10, knocked it about 5 feet by. I made this smooth stroke. The ball rolled nicely right over the right edge, about 2 inches past. And with my self talk, I said, I'm getting better.
There you
Not,
go.
you missed another one.
Yeah, right.
So
Exactly.
I talk about this 5 second debrief. The judge.
Hmm.
What do you take away from that experience? And human nature, we tend to beat
Yep.
ourselves up.
Right.
Say we've got to use that to encourage us. And I say you don't want to judge the way the culture judges. The culture says if you make the putt, got it in, okay,
Yeah.
we'll let you in the club. All right. And then if you miss it, you did something technically wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's what they do. I remember I was playing, it was like my third or fourth tour event before I got on tour. 1981, Jackie Gleason Embraer Classic becomes the
Hmm.
Honda the next year.
Right.
So here I am, a Monday qualifier. As fate would have it, I'd get my card 3 months later. So here I am. I'm on the ninth green. I got my mini tour roommate caddying for me. Here's my dad on the green, motioning to my friend, "Hey, come on over here." He goes, "Hey, tell Larry he's doing this and this and this."
Oh,
And
geez.
my friend looks at my dad and goes, "Mr. Rinker, your son's choking his freaking guts out." And I was. I didn't feel like I belonged.
Uh,
I mean, I played in a few tournaments. I'd played in the 1980 US Open, but I was scared.
right.
And I'm playing with Bobby Clampett, who's a rookie on tour and doing great.
Yeah.
And so, but it's so funny how everybody thinks it's a mechanical fix
Right.
to fix you. And that's where that judge is. I don't want the judge saying, "Okay, you missed it. You did something mechanically wrong." I want the judge to say, "How well did you trust yourself?
Yeah.
How well did you commit on that putt?"
Yep.
That's what
Exactly.
matters
It
because we
is.
all know the greens are imperfect. You could hit a putt right where you want and it hit something, doesn't go in. We're
Yep.
going to misread putts. That's part of the game. But what can we control? We can control how well I trust myself. That's a process goal. That's something I can do on every shot. And I
Absolutely.
know you guys are big on all that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
So, short game. I've got to ask Henry Johnson, who's the founder owner of FlightScope, because I have a real interesting question. And I actually saw some data yesterday or today on social media. So there's some guys out there talking about you got to be really steep on a chip shot, which let's define that, a low shot. And they want to say you're hitting 10 or 12 down. And I think this one showed hitting down 10, and it showed low point 9.5 inches in front of the ball. Well, I'm going to tell you, I thought about this. If I put a ball in a sand trap and a guy used that technique and caught the ball first and picked it out, I guarantee that the sand displacement in front of that ball is not 9.5 inches in front of it.
No. No.
So it's an algorithm within, but I'm just saying that club is maybe coming down, but how quickly is it bottoming out and going back up after you hit it? And
Right.
Lee Trevino explained it really well. The handle's got to come around and up if you're hitting that shot more with your body rotation and not using your hands as much. I thought that was a great explanation for that low spinner.
Yep.
But I have some NRA questions for Henry. As far as I'm not buying one of those isn't right. I
No.
don't know if
Yeah.
it's 10 down or 9.5 inches in front's low point.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious what he'd say on that bunker analogy because that definitely doesn't add up.
Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting. Like in putting now, we have all these things like a guy hits a chip shot and they're like looking at the machine, like, okay, what was that one? I'm like, where'd the ball go?
Right.
How did it feel off the club face?
Yeah.
I mean, what was the result of the shot? And can you repeat it?
Right.
Are you getting a consistent contact? But it's just amazing how, there's all this data. I remember I was on a panel at Open Forum. Oh God, probably 8 or 9 years ago, and Stan Utley and I are up there, and they got these guys that got all the numbers and how much the ball is spinning, and got these cameras shooting 1,000 frames per second, and talking all this stuff. And Stan and I are looking at each other like, don't know about this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's only gotten more technical and analytical, and it's happening at such a young age for players. And geez, you wonder why junior golf tournaments are taking 5.5, 6 hours to play 18 holes. And it's
Yeah.
just shocking. It's not good. Like it's just horrible, and it's the direction the game's gone, which is just ridiculous. I mean,
Well, what I
it
think's
was
happening.
slow. It was slow when you and I were on tour in the '80s and '90s and early 2000s, and that would be a speed golf round now with
Wow.
how slow they are.
Yeah. I was asking one of those young men that's going to tour school, I'm like, how long are the practice rounds taking? And I was working with him on a short game, and I said, have your caddy throw 3 balls over here, random lies, hit those, and then throw them somewhere else, and get those little discs and put them where you think the holes are going to be cut,
Yeah.
and just practice to those holes and just hit a bunch of shots.
Right.
That's what we used to do. We'd play a game, though. We'd have a game, you know, played a lot of practice rounds with Payne Stewart. Okay, we got our little game, but then
Yep.
after the game, we would work on these shots around the green. So, some good stuff's there. But I remember I got to interview Ricky Fowler in 2009, the year that he top 10 in Vegas, lost in a playoff in the Fries when it was in Arizona. Now we're at Jackson, Mississippi, and I asked him, how did you develop your short game skills? Because they're beyond your years.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, the pro told me just go out there to the short game area and get creative and see what you can do. And I think all this data is taking creativity away from
100%.
people with a wedge around the greens. And when you and I were kids, it was like, well, let's see what we can do with this sand wedge, and
Yeah.
and in my day, we didn't have a 60-degree wedge, 56. We learned
Yeah.
how to use it. And I still believe the best ever with that club in their hand is Seve Ballesteros.
Yeah. He was a magician with it. And
And so
yeah,
just,
my when like the 56 was all I learned with too, Larry. And I won Q school with a 56-degree wedge. And I remember playing at Riviera practice round with D.A. Wybring and Hal Sutton. And I had pings in the bag at the time, and I had a ping 1 iron. And I could hit straight up if I wanted, or I could hit it head high. And DA said to me on Tuesday practice round, he said, "Hey Junior," he says, "how often you use that 1 iron?" I said, "I don't know, 3 or 4 times around." And he said, "Oh, that's good. You think you'd use a 60-degree wedge more?" I said, "Well, I don't know, DA. I've never hit one before, so I have no idea." So I started hitting a 60 and realized, oh my gosh, that I already knew how to hit all the shots with 56. It just made it that much easier. So ended up implementing the 60. But it, it's amazing where it's gone. And now people are with 64 degrees and all this other stuff. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, I don't even know.
yeah.
So how do you work on different trajectories and releases with your students around the greens when you're talking short game?
Well, first I'll say, okay, here we are. We're 10 yards off the green, hitting to, whatever pin. I'll say, are you going to go low or high? And a lot of times they say, oh, kind of medium. I'm like, okay. Uh, you're behind the 8 ball already. That's like saying you're going to get up, and if I'm going to ask you if you're hitting a draw or fade, and you say you're going to hit it straight, you might, but you won't know how you did it. You won't know how to make your body hit it straight. I said, if you're thinking medium, then you don't know if you're both hands are involved. Both hands are getting involved. If you're going low, it's left hand driven, and you're going to stand closer to it. You're going to be hands higher, and you're going to trap it, and you're going to not allow the club to flip through. I say, if you're going to go high, the right palm's going to go to the sky. Now you can control the distance on how far you go through with it. Um, but to me, I always tell my students, you're if you can control the height, you can control the ball and the distance. And so if you know your flights and you control the flights, that's huge. It's not knowing your yardages, it's knowing how to flight the ball the height you want to go.
So you've worked with a lot of great players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so do you just let them kind of morph and just start getting creative? I always love that when my students all of a sudden it's Alice in Wonderland and they're just now they're creating. When
Yeah.
that happens, I'm always like, okay, I've done my job.
Right.
But if someone said, hey, let's work on, I know James Seekman has 4 trajectories that he likes. He labels them 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the 4 is the Seve or the flop shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll work with his guys. Okay, give me a 1, give me a 3, give me a 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Right.
pretty good. I think that's a good
Yeah.
system.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
But
And
and
I
basically all you're doing is changing ball position and shaft lean at address.
That's exactly right. Shaft lane and ball position. That's how you control your heights. And um, and when I have my students practice these shots, I'll have them take like 5 balls and go here. Like you said, 3 balls, three's fine. 5 balls, go to a spot and hit them to a pin, but go through your routine each time.
Yeah.
Don't just don't see how fast you can hit them. You're not learning anything. If anything, you're going to ingrain bad habits. So
Yeah.
I have them go through their routine on the 5, and then once they finish those, and do it with the mindset of, okay, I've got to get this up and down to win the tournament, and really put that on you. So when you're in that position, I've already done this, you know,
Right.
I've already done this. So I have them do that in all different shots. I don't let them sit in one spot over and over again, because then you go through the motions and your mind isn't focused. And for the most, I mean, everybody's different mentally. Some people can focus a lot longer than others. I was never one of those that could focus for a long period of time on one task. I'd go out of my mind.
Right.
Uh, I didn't like to beat balls, and I have students that don't like to beat balls, and a lot of them do the same thing um, that I did, which was I would go warm up, I'd go play, and then I would write down my stats: how many fairways I had, if I missed, which side, how many greens, if I missed where, how many up and downs, how many putts, and go through the whole round after I'm done. Grab a bite to eat, and I go through and say, okay, this was good today. This was good. This wasn't good. I'm gonna go work on this. So after I got a bite to eat, whatever wasn't good that day, I would go spend 30 minutes working on that and going through the routine that I have, and fixing that issue that I had that day. And so if I did that, um, the next day it might be something else I'm working on that wasn't good, but I was always attacking whatever was not what I wanted it to be that
Right.
particular day. So I would, a lot of people don't like to work on the things they're not good at. There's that. They like to go, yeah, you see people go to the range and they go right to the driver, or they won't hit the shots that they're not good at. They don't
Right.
want to work on the low stinger shot, or they don't want to, whatever it is. Um, that's how I learned. And I have students that really like that, because you're not letting anything get away from you. You're focusing on what needs to be focused on that particular day.
Well, I love that you talk about that you want your students to run their routines when they practice their short game. I remember I was playing in a tournament. My dad used to always love to come and be there on Tuesdays. He'd talk to the players and the caddies, hang out. He loved to hang. And so one tournament, I play in the morning on Thursday. We're in having lunch. And he says to me, "Okay, Larry, you don't do in the tournament what you do in the practice round." And I'm thinking, okay, what kind of cockamamie ideas he got here? And basically, what it was is I wasn't running my routine.
Mm,
I in the practice round, I kind of take one practice swing beside the ball, move in and hit it. Whereas in the tournament, I might take five practice swings. I might take three. I might go back behind it again and walk up and take two or three more, and then just it was monotonous.
yeah,
And so the discipline really for all our students is you got to run that routine in your putting. You got to run that routine in your short game. You've got to run your routine when you're on the range before you're going to play golf. When I had my Sirius XM show, one of the questions we got all the time was, how do I take it from the range to the first tee?
right.
That's by preparing on the range the way you're going to be on the first tee,
Exactly.
by running your routine. So it's really important, and it's just funny how that one part of my game I just wasn't doing it. I was doing it everywhere else, but not around the greens, out of the grass. And so he
Mm.
called me out. It was good, and
Good
I
constructive
disciplined
criticism.
myself to do it in practice.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Junior, it's been great having you on the show. You're in Scottsdale now, so if anybody wants to go see him down there, he's down there. You're also doing some stuff in Palm Springs this time of year, and then you're in beautiful Idaho for 5 months in the summer. So
Yep.
go out there. And boy, I was in Colorado for 12 summers. I know how beautiful it is out west
Yeah.
in the summers. But great having you on, my friend.
Larry, great being on with you too, my friend. Awesome.
You've been listening to the Larry Rinker Golf Podcast. Till next time, keep swinging.